Liverpool fan in Japan.
Hello YouTube, Liverpool fan in Japan here, the Miyazaki man Sai, and in today's video we're going to go for a beginner's guide to football tactics. We're going to do football in a general sense as well as Arne Slot's Liverpool. Now this is a channel with substance and abundance.
The cream of the crop!
And this video has been demanded for a long time by members of our fantastic Liverpool community. So I'm going to spend this entire section doing a beginner's guide, the 101 to football tactics, and I will follow this up with an intermediate video and an advanced tactics video if this video does good enough. So drop a like if you enjoy this kind of content, smash the subscribe and hit the bell icon, get notified of the latest Liverpool fan in Japan videos. And in the advanced tactics session, I'll go to the nth degree about how managers try to get that marginal gain to turn the tide and flow of a battle in football, and how you do your best to prepare the tangible facets of tactics, the things that you can actually control and prepare for, as well as account for and prepare for the intangibles as well, things that you can't affect but you have to be aware of. In this beginner's guide, I'm going to use the most simplistic language I can to make sure that every viewer can follow along comfortably and understand some of the more advanced concepts in football. So I'm going to avoid words like Raumdeuter and Gengen pressing and the player's sphere of influence, and even the statistical metric hot buzzwords like expected goals, for example. Let's break it down into simple old school football tactics. Let's get into it. I've literally just finished editing this video and my goodness, breaking news. Mamardashvili of Valencia looks like he's on his way to Liverpool as the first signing. This is a long-term successor to Alisson Becker, but he's not going to Bournemouth as we would have expected to get used to the Premier League and playing out from the back, but more so he's going to stay at Valencia. That's probably been a crucial factor in getting this deal over the line. All the top reporters are reporting it right now, especially James Pearce. It looks like we have the deal, 40 million euros there or thereabouts for confirmed number one. Does that mean Alisson Becker won't renew his contract or he'd want to move on in a year or two? I love me some Alisson, my favourite goalkeeper of the Liverpool era of modern times, alongside Pepe Reina. I really thought he made a difference. His battle with Peter Cech at the time, fantastic viewing. Sepp van den Berg looked like he's on his way as well. Richard Hughes played blinder, getting 25 million for Sepp van den Berg, who was never really a prominent member of Liverpool's squad. Absolutely top notch there. Well in, Hughesy. Now with the transfer budget coming up, the kitty being stacked as well, you'd expect movement on our behalf. I'd expect two more signings still in the Liverpool FC window. Still no confirmation of Rio Engamoha as well from Chelsea, but I have a feeling that a six will still be targeted, whether it's Zubimendi or someone else. Obviously that saga, everyone's bored of it by now, but I still like Maxence Kakare in the deep lying role. It could be a Fabian Ruiz, someone out of the blue, really would offer something to the squad as well, because they've got that destroyer aspect and ability to play hybrid 8 as well. I'd really like some other players, maybe Angelo Stiller. Centre back, people are talking still about a centre back. Let's see who comes in. People want Hincapié. I think he's the wrong one to target at Leverkusen, because Kosono, I think, has a higher ceiling than Hincapié, who's more like a left-sided Tomiyasu, right? So breaking news on transfers, wanted to squeeze that in, but let's carry on. Now, just before we carry on, I'll give you a bit of context. I'm actually player manager of a local non-league J-League side called Lucha FC. It's the home of Lucha FC. Just done a training session, night time, 9 PM now, local time. Gonna do the stream in 3 hours. Let's do it. And we've come first in the division twice in a row. And saying that, I also develop cloud software CRM systems for a big sports governing body in the UK as well. And I create the back office systems for them to do the lead process in terms of talent recruitment. And this can be for managing directors, chief scouts, player assessments, and the whole lead function, from identifying talent, bring them through the assessment phase, the procurement, the data points, before converting them from an actual lead into a prospect itself. So I do have some insight into the procurement teams, obviously called a transfer committee in football, as to what their requirements are, what the attributes they're looking for in players, and how it fits certain tactical models and tactical algorithms and shapes as well. Gonna rock this, get me some goals. And let's get into it. Now, the concept in every football game is always the same. You try to outscore your opposition, win the match, get 3 points for a league game, or win the game and go through to the next round of a competition. Every team will aim to maximize the strengths of their players. It's actually the attributes of the players, basically the skills of the players, the ability of the players, what the players can actually do, the players that you have in your squad, to determine the right tactical fit. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes a manager has a set way of playing, a particular type of style of play that they like their team to do on any given match day, in which case it's their job to find the players with the right skill sets that suit their tactical requirements. Now, even though the players matter, and this is a Liverpool channel, so I do have Liverpool players on this example, let's forget the fact of what these particular players to my left here can actually do and just put players into the standard position. So if you look old school, you have a goalkeeper, you have a right back, you have the centre back, most likely two. And we're just going to start with the basics of football in a 4-4-2 formation. Your left back, your right back, your two centre backs, a more defensive central midfielder, a more attacking central midfielder, a left winger, and a right winger, and two forwards. So this was the very dominant style of play, especially in and around the era of Michael Owen, Emile Heskey, Gerard Houllier, and thereabouts. Now, what does each position try to do? Obviously, the goalkeeper is tasked with keeping the ball out of the net. It's only been a kind of modern turn of events that a player in goal actually contributes to the build-up. By build-up, we mean manoeuvring the ball around and looking for opportunities to hit a beautiful pass. They're expecting goalkeepers to be more well-rounded footballers nowadays, but ultimately their job is to keep the ball out of the net. When the opposition shoots at goal, a great goalkeeper is expected to save the ball, get the ball away from the goal by any means necessary. And that brings up the first point of football, shooting. How do you score a goal? The few methods to score a goal is obviously a direct shot in on goal, or a cross from out wide into a striker who will try to head it, or if it's a low cross, try to side foot it in or kick the ball into the goal. Crossing is a very dominant style of play for teams with big physical players and players who are good at heading the ball towards the goal. However, saying that, you have to keep in mind that when the ball is crossed into the centre, a striker, let's say an Emile Heskey or Peter Crouch, have to actually head the ball towards the goal. They have a small window of opportunity to direction the ball into the right area, whereas the centre back can literally head the ball in any direction to keep the ball safe. So the cross itself from the wide position has to be of sufficient quality, and the centre forward has to be good in the air because they're competing with two central defenders who are predominantly good in the air as well at clearing the ball and clearing danger. Also keep in mind, if the ball is hit too near to the goalkeeper can not only jump against you, but he can have his hands outstretched, which more often than not means he will win the ball in the air or at least punch it or clear it away. We'll come into crossing in a bit when we look at the attacking phases of play, because where you cross from ultimately determines the angle, the type of ball, the chances you get, or even the other way around, ball into the centre. So we will look at that pattern of play when we get to attacking phase. But predominantly, the goalkeeper is tasked with keeping the ball out of the net, and the two central defenders are their first line of defence. These are the Iron Guardians that keep that area safe. They have a no entry zone, so anyone who comes there or thereabouts, it's their responsibility to engage and win the ball. They can go in with a tackle, they can go in with a header if the ball's aerial, but also another good component of play and good defensive action is an unseen action, because what you can also do is shield the player away from your goal. As long as the player is heading away from your goal, that is a positive defensive contribution because you've moved them away from the danger area and you've moved them away from an opportunity for them to shoot at goal. So actually, when you see players, especially in the defensive midfield position, which we will go into in an intermediate video particularly, guide the player away from a goal scoring situation, or even on occasion, which Trent Alexander does a lot of the time, is bring the player into a position where they have a low percentage chance of making a positive contribution. Because if Liverpool get the ball back from a low percentage chance to convert because there's so many bodies back, it means that straight away Liverpool can counter-attack. What counter-attack means is when you are able to get the ball back from the opposition, you now have the ball and you have options with the ball. Because the opposition has pressed players forward to try to get a goal of their own while they're in possession, they are most likely out of shape and vulnerable for the counter-attack, and you expose their vulnerability by giving it to your best players, your fastest players, and getting from one end of the field all the way down to the other side of the field as quick as possible. This is why pace is always going to be an attribute that is hard to defend against because you cannot do anything about pace if you're not as fast as that player. But tactics can nullify pace, and we're going to look at different types of defensive shapes and the different types of ways to expose pace as your own strength as well, particularly a Darwin Núñez, for example. But I digress. Going back to the defensive functionality, we know that these two are the pillars in front of the centre back. What if the opposition attack out wide? Well, that is the fullback's responsibility. So the modern day fullback is a multifaceted role. You have a playmaker, you have a wing back, you have a half back, you have an inverted fullback. There's so much terminology here, and we won't confuse the role. In this particular video, we note that the fullbacks, the left back and the right back, defend the width, defend against the opposition wingers. Okay, now I want to state at this point that even though this formation is 4-4-2, when we talk about tactics, especially as a manager, as a coach, it's more about fulfilling a function. It doesn't really matter what shape and what numbers of players you put in potential positions. It's about what you're trying to do, what the aim of them being in that position actually is. In this situation here, we have two players defending the goal, two players defending the whips. So this area here and this area here is the responsibility of the fullback. These players, generally these wingers, are attacking, they are offensive, they want to go forward and go down the wings. Inverted fullbacks are very, very popular, and in this video I will go through why inverted fullbacks become more popular, because a pitch only has a maximum amount of space. The opposition has 11 players, you have 11 players. I've said since day one, tactics can be the equalizer against a better team, against better individual players. A team is only as strong as the combined performance of its individuals, and that is very, very important, because otherwise, why do you not just cancel football, cancel Premier League, and give the trophy to Man City or Real Madrid every single year? Football doesn't work like that. It's why Leicester won the Premier League, it's why Greece won the Euros. Now, as I mentioned, this player is usually defensively more proficient, higher defensive attributes, and this player is usually more offensive. But you usually work in pairs. You'll note that the right back and the right winger, left back and the left winger, two centre backs, central midfield pairing, striking partnership up front. Okay, the wingers are expected to go up and down. Nowadays, the fullback is expected to go up and down as well with attacking contributions, but ultimately they are wide players. Now, the centre of the pitch is the most important area of the pitch because it's the shortest route to goal. If you draw a line from here all the way to the other side, the centre of the pitch is the fastest way to get from end to end, and only very, very high caliber players can do that directly, get through the lines and get an opportunity to score a goal, which is why the centre of the pitch is usually congested. You usually have your well-rounded players, your total footballers in the middle of the pitch who can do a bit of everything. Just to give an example, Endo can destroy, he can pass the ball forwards through the lines, means against the opposition press, wherever the opposition line up, is about finding your players through their positions, through their zones, through their pressing. Someone like Dominic Szoboszlai has more offensive capability because this player here can do parts of this player's job. He can cross it from out wide. He can shoot from long range. He can track back and defend alongside this player. So your central midfield players have to be well-rounded enough to do multiple areas of the job because of the fact that they are in the most congested area of the pitch. They have to defend. They have to support. They have to give their players an option, an outlet, and predominantly they're always involved even when the ball is not near them or at their feet. The strikers are tasked with putting the ball in the net and winning you the game. That is their primary responsibility, but it's not always as simple as that unless you're playing junior high football. It's around running and making the space and giving your team the option to progress up the pitch. Now, traditionally, you might hit a striker out wide. Someone with pace, someone with dribbling ability, someone with the ability to hold up the ball can play wide as well. But then you get slow, lumbering forwards who are very good at a particular thing, holding the ball up centrally. Think of a Peter Crouch, a Kevin Davies. You hit that man and everyone joins in the attack because you're expecting him to hold up the ball. Kenny Dalglish is one of the best players ever in history because his hold-up play is almost unequivocally one of the best in history. You just cannot get the ball off him. His rump derriere and delicious tush guides the opposition players away from the ball and they literally bounce off him. And his technical ability, what you need in that position is someone with a good first touch. First touch means when the ball comes to you, on your first touch, you can get the ball and manipulate the ball exactly where you need it to be to do your next action or to keep the ball away from the opposition. So looking back to the classic example of Owen and Heskey, which is a great combination. For this example, Nunez is Michael Owen and Cody Gakpo is Emile Heskey. Now their strengths are 1. Owen running at pace behind the defenders, and 2. Emile Heskey being great at hold-up play, taking the brunt of long balls and trying to win the ball to give it off to Michael Owen or play Michael Owen in and behind. Now let's just look at the classic situation. Your wingers are trying to get high to deliver a cross. Okay. Now predominantly you're going to want Michael Owen at the front post. Your smaller striker, your speedier striker, who's not the most competitive in the air but probably has a good chance of scoring a header if the crossing is right. If the cross comes in from this position, when he runs into it, all he has to do is glance the ball, especially across goal. Now, the reason why you're going to hit the ball across goal is because in this facet of play, the goalkeeper more or less is going to be standing at the front post here. If the ball is too close to them, they're going to gather it. If you hit a front post shot, it's a small area of goal to get the ball in. If you hit it towards the back of the goal, they've got to extend themselves to try to save the ball. Additionally, the pace on the ball is already coming this way. To angle the ball, you're going to have to do a Gini Wijnaldum type header against Barcelona from the delivery of Xherdan Shaqiri, because that was a quality piece of play, in order to facilitate the opportunity there. You also have a wider margin of error because anywhere along this line and it comes out for a goal kick. But look at the angles here. You have opened up this arc here to head the ball across. So this is always a percentage play, taking the ball on the glance towards the back post, because even if you fluff your lines and it goes wide, the ball is still in place for phase 2. What phase 2 means is when you've done the first action and it doesn't quite come off the way you want, the opposition has headed it away, it's gone to the wrong place. When your player picks up the ball, or you're in a 50-50 duel, which means you and the opposition have an equal chance to get the ball, or at least a significant chance, 70-30, whatever it may be, to get the ball, that is the second phase. And the second phase is very, very important as well, because nowadays teams are very well set up to defend the first phase. They can see what you're doing. But the second phase has unpredictability, because everyone has to improvise with muscle memory and do the actions that they think will keep that move alive, unless they decide to play it back, and there you go, you build up again and start your phase 1 because you're more in control of the situation. Now I mentioned Owen going to the front post because if you loft a ball to the back post, this is a longer ball and it gives more time for the opposition to set and contest the ball in the air, which is why you want your more physical dominant specimen, your Heskey, your Crouch, your Andy Carroll, your Benteke, to contest in the air, because even if they win the ball in the air, the other player has a full jump and is competitive as well. So you're going to have to really hit a dominant header, a bullet header, which is actually a lot of the times determined by the pace of the ball, the delivery of the ball from the wide man. If it's quick enough, you can generate the power to bullet header a goal either way. Once again, it's more advisable to hit a cross goal because especially at the back post, you have a full vision of the arc and the ball coming towards you. So you have more of the area to hit this arc towards the goal, whereas the front post, more margin for error anywhere here and it's out of bounds. Keeper most likely be closer to you if it's lofted, and the central defenders can get there as well. You'll find a lot of the time the ball comes into the back post and they head it across goal, because when it's headed across goal, it's that phase 2. It's known as the zone of uncertainty because your headed ball can go anywhere to anyone and it's about improvisation. But once again, the reason why the defender will get the ball most of the time or it won't result in a goal is because you have a small target to hit with the right ball dropping to the right person, with the right first touch, with the right shot, beating a keeper, beating the defender, that kind of thing as well. Whereas any deflection, any clearance from any player in the opposition in any direction prevents a goal. This is why goals are actually quite hard to score, or at least much harder to score than you'd expect. And I did mention crossing from that position and where the strikers supposedly are meant to be, especially the type of strikers that I mentioned, the Owen and the Heskey. The crossing really, really matters, because when you do this kind of cross here, this traditionally arcs away from the goalkeeper if it's hit with that type of arc. But what that means is the longer you leave that ball, the further away it's getting away from goal. So you have to get yourself into a position to meet it at its apex where you can make the cleanest connection to generate the most power, unless you're an absolute dominant force in the air. Surprisingly, Luis Garcia, Luis Suarez, Diogo Jota, some of the smaller players, Sadio Mane, are very, very good at generating their own power, even not at the apex of the ball flight. If you hit it too close to the keeper, he's just going to gather it as well. And the unfortunate thing with this type of ball as well is any glancing header from a central defender will get it out of bounds, okay? And it's not going towards goal, and there's no chance for spillage or mistake for it to end up in the goal. If, for example, he cuts inside onto his favoured right foot, because this is Luis Diaz, and you hit this type of ball in, the goalkeeper has the opportunity to claim it because it's going right to him with the hands. However, it depends on the arc and positioning of that cross itself. What this cross allows you to do, rather than taking the pace of the ball, is any glancing effort, because your player is also coming in at the angle, and now the goal has a bigger arc of exposure for the header to go in on a glance. And for any mishaps, because players do collide with each other, it's a physical game, football, the ball may just bobble and end up in a zone of uncertainty, and the goalkeeper has to gamble between whether your player will get a touch, whether his defender will get a touch, and position himself appropriately to defend against where he expects the header to go, against the ball going directly in because of the pace of the cross itself. Now these are high arced balls. There's also the concept of the low ball cross, where you get down the line and you have two options. You can either smash it low across for a runner to go in. This is particularly effective when you're behind enemy lines, because the defender running back does not want to actually make contact with the ball, because they have the possibility to hit it in this kind of angle. So they're going to have to hit it high or wide, or if they're on the stretch for it, really hope for the best and they make a contact that doesn't put their own defense in a perilous situation. However, this type of cross is most easily blocked as well by the first defender, the first man or the second man, because you have the ability to hit the body, to hit the legs. A dangled leg or anything like that will get the ball out of bounds away from the goal danger. Unlike the arcing cross, which usually beats the first man because of the height and the dip of the ball, the low cross is only really good when you're in and behind enemy lines and causing confusion and they're out of position. And you still have to hope that your player gets on the end of it, because it's less likely to be junk balled in terms of a deflection, anything bobbling the ball in and around the area, and it's more likely just to be booted out of bounds or downfield, for example. So crossing is a very effective part of the modern day game, very effective part of the olden day game as well. And Jurgen Klopp particularly liked to cross from deep positions. When you have a player of such talent, they can arc the ball into that position. You don't even have to work your way into the advanced positions to really make something happen. I'm looking at you, Trent, arcing the ball. Diogo Jota on the weekend. The Slotter unfortunately missed that particular opportunity. So this is the kind of crossing game and build up. However, we have a Darwin Núñez and Michael Owen of the past who are particularly pacey, and what you're looking to do is play them in and behind. Now the quicker you release the ball and the more training that you have done to get the players in sync with natural chemistry, and this is why chemistry is so important in building a team. You can't just buy the best players, you have to buy the players that work together. I'll give you an analogy. Cristiano Ronaldo is here, Erling Haaland is here, Arjen Robben is here, three of the best players of all time, three of the best goal scorers of all time, three of the best forwards of all time, and it would not work because Haaland completely relies on service into him, in and around the area, and this guy here, Cristiano Ronaldo, does not want to pass to Erling Haaland, or at least he'll pass to him out here where he's expecting the ball back. But Erling Haaland is not the best connector in the game and won't allow Cristiano Ronaldo to do his thing, because Erling Haaland wants to be in the end of moves, as does Cristiano Ronaldo, as does Arjen Robben. Arjen Robben wants someone to go around him so he can cut inside, because you know that Arjen Robben's always going to cut inside, and Arjen Robben's not going to lay it on a plate to Cristiano Ronaldo. He's not going to slide Erling Haaland in. He's going to go for his curve shot or dribble and smash it in the front post. Therefore, it doesn't matter about the best players. It's around tactics and making sure that your tactics allow your best players or your most important players to thrive, to shine, to show their strengths. So when you've got a player like Michael Owen and Darwin Núñez who are on the shoulder of the opposition, and what on the shoulder means is they are next to the opposition, they're waiting to spin in and behind of the opposition, getting into the space, beating them on the run, waiting for a ball over the top so they can outrun the defender who has to turn around and get back with Darwin Núñez. He is waiting for the opportunity for the ball, and what you need in that position is the trust of the player, wherever they may be behind you, to play the ball early, to get the timing right, otherwise you are caught offside. Offside means basically wherever the defenders are placed, in the most simple terms, you cannot be ahead of the last defender when the ball leaves his foot, and comes towards you. If you are ahead of the last defender's foot, you are offside. If you are more or less in line, and it's a controversial decision, it now goes to the video assistant referee, VAR, who checks, were you onside or were you offside? Usually they should let the play continue and carry on. If there's no goal scoring attempt or no goal or free kick or any decision of that magnitude, usually the game is allowed to go on. However, if there is a goal at the end of this, they have to check that Darwin Núñez did not run too early and the ball was played to him off the foot. At the time it leaves his foot, he was beyond the last defender. If there's a defender in line with him, the ball playing part is the important part to check against. A shoulder, a head, anywhere within the rules of football. As long as he's in line, he's onside. If he's ahead of the defender, he's offside. If he's behind the defender, he's onside. Hopefully that clarifies it in the most simple way. There are variations as well, especially if the goalkeeper comes out, but we won't get into it in this video. Now, formation and shape does matter to the extent that it allows you to do your tactics, your plan, your strategy. But keep in mind that you're playing against opposition, and the opposition's shape and formation always changes as well. So you have to adapt to what is going on the pitch itself. Use your eyes, use your instincts, and use your judgment to make sure that your instructions to your players are suitable. Whether the instructions you gave them in training to prepare for the match or what they're currently doing on the pitch, you have to constantly adapt, because football is like a story. There's ups, there's downs, there's big moments, there's cliffhangers, there's tragic events, and then the ultimate glory when your tactics come to fruition or your player does a moment of magic. Now, sometimes you can't account for a moment of magic, but your tactics can definitely prevent the opposition moments of magic if you know what to look out for. So first and foremost, I'm going to go with Jurgen Klopp's formation and explain in the most simplest way I can what he was trying to do, at least at the peak of his era at Liverpool. So Alisson Becker, Virgil van Dijk, Ibu Konate, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson. Let's play Darwin Núñez, Mo Salah, Luis Diaz, and just for this example, I'm going to put Curtis Jones here. We're going to use actual player attributes and explain what each player can actually do and why Jurgen Klopp set up in this system. Now, Roberto Firmino is a bit more advanced in his role. In fact, he's one of the most unique players of all time. The deep lying forward, the false nine. Very, very interesting. It was a tactical innovation and tactical revolution alongside Dirk Kuyt as a right winger inside forward as well. But that's for another video, maybe an intermediate video. So looking from back to front, Alisson Becker is one of the best goalkeepers of all time in the Premier League, if not the best goalkeeper at Liverpool as well in history, alongside Ray Clements. He can catch the ball, he can distribute the ball. The good thing about Alisson Becker is he's got a really, really good offensive punt in terms of getting Mo Salah on the counter-attack. That is, when we win the ball, getting Mo Salah off and away, or Luis Diaz off and away. Very, very clinical. He also acts as a sweeper keeper, and what that allows you to do, and Jurgen Klopp used it often, is put Alisson into the ball playing areas of the field. He would navigate the ball, allow Trent and Robertson to push up, and when the opposition came to press him, he would dink a ball over to Trent, and off we go, and off we went to play. Now, there's two aspects of Trent Alexander-Arnold's play under Jurgen Klopp. One is his dominant performance in the right half space here, and we call this the half space here because it's exposing the gap past the opposition line with players in and around him, but an opportunity for him to get his head up, get his foot on the ball, and it's obviously on the right hand side, and therefore it is the right half space. And what Trent Alexander-Arnold is able to do is hit the ball and change the point of attack to any position on the pitch, whether it's Mo Salah down the line, cross-field ball to Luis Diaz, a penetrating ball into the 8 position here for one of your number 8s, or even a ball over the top arcing into a Darwin Núñez or Lucho Diaz coming in and around back post as well. This is why he's a generational player, because not many other players in world football, even the greatest right backs of all time, and you're thinking of Dani Alves and Maicon, Cafu, Lahm, Zanetti, Carlos Alberto, Lilian Thuram, all the legends of the game cannot do what Trent Alexander-Arnold does. Even Roberto Carlos hesitated when discussing top right backs of all time, or even the top fullbacks of all time. Said Trent Alexander-Arnold is special because no one else can do what he can do. But just to reset a little bit, I did go to inside forwards, and what you're going to find in the modern day in game is that wingers have the propensity, and by that I mean the habit, of getting into this inside forward position here. Rather than the days of old going around the outside and whipping in across, you're thinking of Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, or even lesser players of that prototype, that type of player, like Jermaine Pennant, Danny Murphy, they come into this position because it's been statistically proven that they're going to get more joy and get closer to the goal and actually score more goals and assist more goals in this position. Now, what allows them to come in here is the overlapping fullback. The modern day fullback roams and comes in and behind in this position, because when this player has the ball in this position and this player is making that forward run, the defenders have to make a choice. Do you track and prevent that run, or do you come inside with this run? If you allow this player to go around the outside, then all the crossing options that I discussed earlier in this video become available. And if not, you have to track this person, because this person is looking to shoot. He's now closer to goal. The angles have opened up and he has the opportunity to shoot or slide in a through ball to his striker as well. So the game-winning scenarios for a Jurgen Klopp team was to get Trent into this right half space, to get Mo Salah into this inside forward position on the right hand side. We call this the Mazzala position, the roaming playmaker on the wide channels. Anywhere in amongst this quadrant here is the Mazzala position, the number 10 in a wide variant. And we continuously had that with Sadio Mane, Luis Diaz, Mo Salah, even Harvey Elliott. We didn't play the traditional right-footed winger on the right-hand side and left-footed winger on the left-hand side. We got our whips on the fullbacks, which is why Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold are two of the biggest playmakers in history in terms of getting assists, right up there with the best wingers in world football in history. And what allowed these wide players to get into that position is the fact that these midfielders absolutely work their socks off to rotate the ball, to work the ball around, to make sure that the opposition had to press these players, because these players were always the one to receive the ball, to play the ball. To play the ball and to receive the ball. To move the ball over and to play the ball around until the chance presents itself for Alisson or Virgil van Dijk to ping the ball into that position, and off we go. Robertson will hit it into Diaz, start making an overlapping run. The defender has to make the decision, Robertson or Diaz. Robertson will go down this way, Diaz will come in this way, and the rest works like clockwork. Either Darwin Núñez will make the forward run for a slip ball, or he'll run to the back post waiting for that shot and spillage. Mo Salah will come around the back waiting for any spillage as well, and players will move up the pitch waiting for any of the second phase balls, as I explained earlier. What Jurgen Klopp is very good at doing is compressing the pitch, and what compressing the pitch means is everybody steps up high up until the halfway line, because I explained the offside line already, and when you have an offside line here, you're going to find it very, very hard to not be held offside. Now, one particular aspect of the offside rule is you can't be offside in your own half. So if the opposition striker is here, they get the ball somehow off one of our incredible players and they play the ball. Even if this player is in front of the back line, he is not offside, because you can't be offside if you are within your own half. But the fortunate thing is, in Virgil van Dijk and Ibu Konate, they are two of the fastest players in world football. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, comments below, Ibu Konate is the fastest defender in our squad and one of the fastest defenders in world football, as is Virgil van Dijk. And Robertson is no slouch either, but Trent is slower than Henderson, apparently. So by compressing the play, it suffocates the opposition because they find it very, very hard to come out. The game is so congested, and what you're going to see in training is something called rondos. Now, rondos is where you play the ball in very quick succession to the spare man to take advantage of the extra man, getting the man in space, playing congested, tight areas, because you're going to have close to 20 players in this part of the pitch now, which makes it very congested. So your footwork, your touch has to be good to make the most of the opportunities. But they rely on that because, as Jurgen Klopp said, Gengen pressing, which means basically pressing the opposition high up with traps, working in teams. And if it's effective and you win the ball, you have won the ball in the half, closer to the goal. And it's the best playmaker because you don't have to rely on individual silky brilliance. You win the ball and you're already high up with all your players in good positions to start your offensive attack. I'm going to digress a little bit into two training variants that I find very effective before I go into pressing and traps. So I mentioned rondos very, very quickly, and let's just start this. So let's imagine that the rondo is held between these four players and they are on the same team, right? They are on the same team passing to each other, in which case you will have 3 defenders trying to get the ball or 2 defenders. if you want to up the level, it is 3 defenders, because what they're going to try and do, one person will try to close the ball, he'll make space, he'll pass to him, he'll try to close his space, he'll try to mark the opposition, he'll pass the ball through the lines, and it's a game of retention, ball retention, to try to keep the ball, getting in and amongst the players, making your opposition move around and trying to mark the lines of passing. By lines of passing, I mean getting in the way of the line of passing and getting your foot in or retaining the ball, which is why you always have to be on the move to shift your marker to get the ball, and this is known as a rondo. Robertson is particularly weak at rondos, however he is a Scottish Braveheart and his energy levels and personal characteristics make him an absolute dominant left back defensively and offensively. However, for rondos, he's probably the worst in the squad. I'm sorry, Robbo. And another particularly effective training methodology, because you always try to make an unbalanced match to make sure the players know instinctively how to make the most of a numerical advantage. In the intermediate video, we will show how to overload, which means getting an extra player into a position, outnumbering the opposition, which gives you the chances. They practice this day in and day out in training, because when you have that numerical advantage, that's what you've been working towards for the whole match. You better make the most of it, because you've earned the right to take advantage of it. And another good tactical play is, let's say for example, it's these 3 against these 3 players. What you have in the middle is a shapeshifter, and what that means is whoever has the ball, if Van Dijk has the ball, this player here is now part of this team, so it's a 4-on-3 and they go and try and win the ball. But as soon as the ball turns over, this player is now part of this team, and now he's going to make the extra man and work together with these players to overload the other team. And intelligent players are very, very suited to this role, like Roberto Firmino or Diogo Jota or Tado Endo, who was famously very, very good at this at Stuttgart and was always on the winning team, according to Mario Gomez. And this allows you to train the transitions, changing from attack to defense and making sure that your numerical advantage pays dividends, which means you're basically taking advantage of your numbers and hopefully turning it into a goal, or at least a good opportunity. But I digress a little bit. Let's get back into the shape and let's look at what Arne Slot is trying to do, which predominantly is probably of big interest to everyone watching this video. So I'm just going to reset the board and go over the lineup that Arne Slot went with Ipswich. And I will go more in depth in the intricacies of the midfield, but otherwise it'd make this video too long, because the midfield itself can take a whole episode to show the different transitions, the responsibilities, what each player actually needs to do, what they try to do and where they move. And it's very, very fascinating to see. And to know what to look out for as well during the course of the match, because the most important thing about the midfield battle is actually the players who are not on the ball and what you don't see. But once again, we'll go into that in the intermediate video. So I'm going to ignore the first half for now, because that was about containment and feeling Ipswich out and trying to beat the full court man-for-man press, which basically means Ipswich went mano a mano, 1 man to 1 man. You try and beat me, you try to show you're manlier than me, I'll get in your face, in your space, make you waste possession at haste. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. But basically, in the second half, we lined up in a classic 4-3-3 formation with Diogo Jota the Slotter up front. And what I want to pay highlight to is Arne Slot is very, very insistent on centralized play, playing the ball in a central position. Now this, you look at this unit here, right? Thou shall not pass. This is completely congested with a person in each position, and if you tuck in as well, you encourage the opposition to pass the ball to the outside, because the space is in the outside and in behind the players. In the first half, I said I wouldn't touch on it, but just a quick mention. They found joy in and behind our number 8s, because our number 8s, and by number 8 we mean a player ahead of the deep lying midfielder, either side predominantly, because the number 8 usually comes in pairings unless you're playing the 2 in midfield, the left number 8 and the right number 8. And the reason why they probably went with this configuration here is because Szoboszlai is very good at covering for Trent Alexander-Arnold, defensively responsible. We are a defensively responsible team because Dominik Szoboszlai is Hungarian captain, while Tado Endo is Japanese captain. Luis Diaz, I don't think he's Colombian captain, but he could be, maybe second, vice captain. Van Dijk is Holland captain. Mo Salah is Egyptian captain. It's a full team of leaders and future leaders as well. Andy Robertson, Scottish captain as well. And they will play responsibly, i.e. Dominik Szoboszlai covering for Trent Alexander-Arnold. But also, Dominik Szoboszlai has a very, very good and proficient right foot. He can cross from the deep positions. He's very good at overlapping, which he did for RB Leipzig as well, to hit the ball in, to play the 1-2s with Mo Salah. We'll come back to the 1-2s in a second. And they've gambled on Szoboszlai's ability to link up with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is a game-winning condition in and amongst himself, which is incredible considering that England didn't even play him, and he's such a talent. What a waste, what a waste. But they gambled that Szoboszlai's athleticism and prowess in opening the play up with his quick feet and ability to do all performing areas, because Szoboszlai could be a right back, he could play in the right half space, he plays as a right side in number 8, he can go alongside Gravenberch as a double man pivot, he can go in the pocket here with the threat of a through ball or a long range shot or cross as well, and he can go overlap on a wing as well. He is so effective in that right position that they preferred that than McAllister, who last season showed his ability in the right sided half space, cutting down Nottingham Forest with the ball to Núñez and the dying moments for Núñez to slot in, him getting in behind the lines as well, to hit crosses, to win the game, to work that position as well. However, he's a connector and metronome, and in this base here, it does allow Szoboszlai to roll into the 10 position where Arne Slot said he would play this season, even though he did not play it in this particular game. Interesting, right? Very, very interesting. However, what I want to highlight in this particular position, as I mentioned, is congesting the play with the press. They allow the opposition to go into these spaces here for the reason that as soon as they enter those positions, Szoboszlai is the first man on the scene. Trent Alexander-Arnold covers the line ball down the line, tries to shift him out wide further because you have a numerical overload, and Mo Salah creeps in the back. They press, which means they pressure the opposition, which means they close down the opposition, go to the opposition to try to win the ball when in the wide channels. In the central areas, the defensive core action is to shift them away from the central position and shift them back in all directions. You've seen that time and time again in the Arne Slot system for Ipswich and for Feyenoord as well, and it looks like that is a continuation in the Liverpool colours as well. And it happens on both sides of the pitches, so I don't need to do the same example on the other side. But what was particularly significant about this shape and why 4-3-3 is probably chosen over a 4-4-2 diamond, and we'll talk about formations in the intermediate video, is the fact that if you can beat your man, your one-man marker, who from Ipswich is going gung-ho to try and take the ball off you, then it's the man that you don't see that's the danger. And we saw that with Szoboszlai going in the middle, the man coming to track him, but the danger is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's beaten his man on the full dash, returning it to him, and he delivered the delicious ball that Diogo Jota should have finished. The really good thing is all the players entered the right positions as soon as they spotted Alexander-Arnold in the right space, because they know what is coming. They've been drilled in training, they know him, he's their mate, they know what he can do, they're going to give him an assist by finishing the goal, unfortunately off target by Jota. But it's a sign of things to come. And the reason why Gravenberch was particularly highlighted by myself and other people in the first half was as a deep lying 6, and he played the single pivot a lot of the time because the other two players played high up, especially in the first half. It's his ability to shift the ball either side with his physicality and first touch, break the lines, and then play the through ball in to the player between the lines, or on our goal scoring situation, play the ball through the lines into Trent Alexander-Arnold, who once again played the ball through the lines. And when you're playing at such pace and such tempo means the overall speed of the ball from one point to the other, played in between the centre-back and the full-back, allowed Mo Salah in and behind, head up, right foot cross to Diogo Jota, opened his body up and left footed in, hit the side of the net and went all the way around the back of the net. That's the most beautiful cinematic type of goals. And Ryan Gravenberch facilitated that by beating his marker on the laterals. Laterals means side by side, because he can do that with his first touch, his long legs. And even in these positions, you have seen Ryan Gravenberch fashion a shot just by going side to side with nifty footwork before trying a shot as well. He's a wild card, an unpredictable player, because you'd think that he's a dribbler. He's a technical whiz. But on occasion, he hit a beautiful ball out wide of Salah. The opposition thought they could intercept it, but he can't. It was too good. They backed off. He got the ball and we play from there. He hit the ball out to Lucho Diaz in the same style. He hit the ball through the lines into a Dominic Szoboszlai. And as I mentioned, in a congested area, you're going to have to be a particularly good passer to pass between all the lines of the opposition, and he did that time and time again, and rightfully he got his plaudits. Now, the Curtis Jones, McAllister, Gini Wijnaldum type role on this side, you can't always have a multifaceted player doing absolutely everything, a jack of all trades. Sometimes you have to have someone who's willing to take the ball under pressure and distribute the ball, willing to move into positions to get the ball and distribute the ball. And what you find with these particular players under Arne Slot is there's a lot of sideways passing, whereas traditionally from this position you always look for inside an overlapping runner, a through ball to Diogo Jota. These Liverpool players under Arne Slot are very, very comfortable in passing the ball sideways, laterally, until the opposition inevitably comes and tracks in this side. And what I've always said, and what is the #1 rule of attacking and defending and keeping focus, is when the ball is on this side, the dangerous people are on the other side of the pitch. These are the dangerous people because this person has a long, long route to goal. This person is near to this person, so your attention is always looking at these players. The eyes of the opposition and the fans worldwide on TV are always looking at these players, but what you really need to look for is these players and where they go and what their movements are. As I said before, as soon as Trent Alexander-Arnold got into the right half space in this position, you're looking for where the players are going to go. Diogo Jota got in between the fullback and the centre back and is waiting for that ball to beat the last man in between the keeper. This is known as the zone of uncertainty, because is this the keeper's ball? Is this a central defender's ball? Who knows? He goes in there, it's chaos, and he really should have scored. One player goes in for the shorter ball, the option, Mo Salah in this position. We've seen that before, which inevitably means Szoboszlai, if he wants to be really gung-ho, gives the extra option down the flanks as well. And then you've got a player like Ibu Konate covering the whip for any fast break, because anything in and behind, counter-attacking, he should clean up. He's a physical specimen, he's quick as well, and he should be alert. But once again, it's very interesting to see where all the players go. If there's no front post option, because Alexander-Arnold can hit that post as well, then a Jota comes here, a Lucho Diaz comes here, and someone's got to go in for the spillage. The second phase is so important in football. It's almost more important to train the second phase and what you need to do instinctively based on where the opposition are and where your players are and what they need to do when the ball comes out than the first phase, because the first phase almost speaks for itself, especially when Trent Alexander-Arnold's got the ball. His ball practically dictates what the first man does. But the second phase is what you train on the training ground every single day, because ultimately it will end up in the second phase or out of bounds more often than not. Now, just going back to football basics here and what you see when we pass out from the back. So this style of play has always been called risky by the pundits. Do you remember when they were calling zonal marking risky? How many people nowadays have an issue with zonal marking? But now it's not talked about because everybody does it to some extent. So the interesting thing with an Arne Slot ball out from the back, from the goalkeeper, is the goalkeeper steps up, because now we have three players, right? We have three players. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson are ultimately probably the destination that you want to go to, but it's very, very common for Van Dijk to go a bit wider, Konate to go a bit wider. They drag the markers out wide, and so many times Alisson Becker has played the ball to Gravenberch because he trusts him, his first touch and his ability to go either direction, because if he's under pressure and he doesn't want to receive the ball, there's two possibilities here. This defender goes to Gravenberch and he can play it into this space for Konate behind him to press up. He can play it to Trent Alexander-Arnold if he's in that position. Or, if the play is slightly more advanced, he can actually bop it into the space behind this player here, because this player is looking forwards and trying to intercept or gauge where the ball is going to go or press Gravenberch, and Trent Alexander-Arnold will always have the sprint and the momentum to reach the ball in and behind him, and straight away you're in an offensive position, one of your game-winning scenarios again with Trent Alexander-Arnold. So many times the ball is played vertically into this man for the fact that you've created the overload, because traditionally opposition teams won't play with more than two strikers pressing. Usually it's a lone striker pressing. If you're Man City, sometimes they even press with a three. When they press with a three, it's even more interesting because you've got to put two players in amongst this, and now you have the ability to worm your way out with triangles. It's most likely the ball is going to go laterally, or the players here hit the ball in and behind, and now we're gravy. Gravenberch off and raring to go as well. The shapes and dynamism of the Dutch WM, MM, WW, whatever you want to call it, is passing triangles. But more than that, it's a more advanced philosophy for the fact that Arne Slot is very willing for the goalkeeper to keep coming until you commit a man, and then play the ball out. Now, if the ball's played out here, traditionally, when Jurgen Klopp had a setup, more often than not, it did not go to the straight man, because if it did, it got bopped back to the centre back very, very quickly. He played it out to a defender. Now, what a defender usually did was either play it out to the wing back or play it to the number 6. As soon as the ball came back, that was a trigger point for your players to dash, to run, to get into position. Lucho Diaz, out you go in that position, and over you go. Out, chipped over to this side, chipped into Salah, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, off you go as well. He relied on the ball back as a trigger point for the players to instinctively go, that's my moment, run into the space that I need to be in. Positional play. Whereas with an Arne Slot system, it became very apparent to me that when the ball came out, and when you win your individual battles, especially Diogo Jota, right, winning this individual battle here, turning the opposition into that half space here, as soon as you turn, you go. You are now the centre forward. You go out wide. You cover the half space. Give him the option square. Play it off there. Slide Lucho Diaz in and behind. You go instantly. It's not a ball back to the central defender where the players go. If the ball goes back to central defender, it's a build-up again. It's a build-up again with lateral passing on the diagonals, worming your way. Do you want to go this way? 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 It's about building up the phases of play until you can get the lines in such a way that when he drops back, goes to the 6. It's off back to Alisson. Alisson gives it to Van Dijk. Short ball to Robertson. Now in this position here, if you can get a player in that position, Arne Slot sets up all his laterals to ultimately get the ball to the player who's going to get the killer ball. And in this situation, you're hoping it gets to Trent Alexander-Arnold, because as soon as it gets to that position, these guys are licking their lips and they're like, go on son, hit me baby, one more time. It could be a sneaky ball to Szoboszlai, through cutting ball to Mo Salah on the edge of the area, dynamic ball to the penalty spot, or whipped all the way to the back. It's a lateral passing to the ultimate off the ball player who's usually the third man before he hits it to the player most likely to convert the game-winning scenario. And this is just an example of one type of build-up Arne Slot likes to do, an example that we saw in the Ipswich game. Hopefully the terminology and examples I gave at the start of the video in regards to offside, what the strikers are trying to do, what the midfielders and defenders are trying to do, and the predominant roles of the defenders, midfielders and forwards, and then looking at it from Klopp's perspective and then looking at it from Arne Slot's perspective, hopefully gives you insight into some of the tactical areas of football and helps you to understand what the media or content creator is trying to portray when they talk about tactics and talk about strategy. So I tried my best to explain the concepts in as beginner friendly terms as I possibly could and use the visuals where appropriate as well. Hopefully that gives a bit of insight. Everyone needs a reminder every now and again of the basics of football to kind of translate into what top tier managers like Arne Slot and Jurgen Klopp are trying to do. I try to incorporate it into my coaching as well, my tactical analysis to my team Lucha FC, and I think I've earned this piece of new kit for today. So it's not a kit, it's like a jacket. Fresh as you like, Carlsberg Adidas, fresh from the wash. What size is this? I've never seen this before. This must be old school. There is an embroidered Liverpool badge. This is silky white. I really like this. I need to get this bad boy on right now. But before I do, the zip's broken. Doesn't matter, still pullable. It's either broken or melted. Looks more broken. But hey ho, for such a classic vintage retro top. And look at the white inside the netting. Size 38 to 40 UK, that's around medium size, isn't it? Let's get this on. I think I've earned this one. And hopefully I've earned your like as well. Make sure you do. Like helps the video get seen. If you did like this video and want me to do a more intermediate one with more all kind of advanced concepts and movements and transitions, we'll go into transitions and the positioning of certain players and how you set up against opposition teams in the next video. Let me know, do you want to see the intermediate one? Thank you once again, Miyazaki man, Ichiban. Until next time, Jane, Ichiban means the best, Jane means see you later.